Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another episode of all the latest transfer news at Chelsea. We're going to be going through a number of players that are being linked with the club and all the latest from today. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into it. Now, the first player we're going to be talking about is Dean Hodgson or Huijsen. I don't know if I ever pronounced this guy's name right. Let me know in the comments. The Bournemouth centre-back, Spanish nationality. He's only 20 years old. We've had a few things come out from multiple journalists. Matt Law coming out on the London Blue pod saying Chelsea are definitely leading the race for Dean Hodgson. I think there's a very good chance of that happening. David Ornstein also commenting on the Bournemouth centre-back saying, I'm not aware of a front-runner between them, Chelsea and Liverpool to date. Real Madrid have always carried a huge appeal to Hodgson, we hear, but so far they haven't moved on this situation, and I'm sure he's philosophical about that. So, I mean, when we look at this player, he's a player who's only really played one season in the Premier League, not experienced whatsoever, but I think it comes back to what I've said before. It's not just about experienced players. We know that Chelsea need experience. We're a very unique club in that sense because we have so many young players. You think, okay, cool. Is Uncle Tossin going to win you the league? Absolutely not. So you've got people asking for Bastoni from Inter Milan, Jonathan Tah from Bayern Leverkusen because they're a little bit older. Those are deals that would you can see from their track record over multiple years that they can perform at a very high level. And then with players like Hodgson from Bournemouth, it's a huge fee, £50 million. And you don't know if you have a proven Premier League centre-back that can carry your team forward for years to come, in the sense that he has produced those level of performances, not just for 1 year, but for 3 or 4 years. And that seems to be the issue that people have, but I don't have a problem with it. I think he's a good player. I think he's a solid player. And I think that, honestly, there's a good chance he can come to Chelsea. Liverpool obviously have Champions League pull. They've got the Van Dijk factor, being able to play next to a player like that. But what Chelsea offer over any other team within that vicinity, Real Madrid included, is automatic game time and a clear plan of progression. So I can see this deal happening. It's got a thumbs up from me. And it seems from what we're hearing with Matt Law and David Ornstein that Chelsea are very much in this race, and they are eyeing up the move for the player. We've had another player that's going to be coming to Chelsea next season, who's already on our books. Jordi Petrovic. I know some of you may have heard of his performances in France for Strasbourg. He's been performing to an exceptional level. And Aston Villa, Juventus and Bayer Leverkusen are eyeing moves for the Chelsea goalkeeper Petrovic following his impressive form on loan at Strasbourg. Sources have told Football Insider. So that is the source for this one. He's been really good since he's been at Strasbourg, and he's playing a key role in the surprise bid for qualifying for potentially Champions League football in France. I mean, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? But still European football nonetheless. He's kept 7 clean sheets in his last 10 games, and his distribution has been superb. Do I think this will happen? Absolutely not. I don't think that there's any way whatsoever, if Chelsea know what's best for them and they look at this from a footballing perspective, even from a financial perspective, I don't think it makes sense either. Aston Villa are a direct rival to us. That's an immediate no. And Petrovic isn't guaranteed to start games there because they've got Martinez, unless there's some sort of situation developing there. Although I know he's in his 30s, he's getting on. Juventus, don't see them coughing up the cash. And Bayer Leverkusen, again, just doesn't really... I don't see these clubs offering ridiculous money for Petrovic. And I think that we are looking at a potentially world-class goalkeeper. I think he is that good. And I think his stats have been that good. And to be honest with you, I think he should have never gone to Strasbourg in the first place. I think he proved himself more than capable to be Chelsea's number one over Robert Sanchez, over Kepa, over Jorgensen, over all of these guys. And for some reason, he was the one who got shipped off to France. So I don't think there's any real, there's nothing to say that Petrovic will go to any of those teams. I'm absolutely certain he's going to be a Chelsea player. Very, very certain on that. But listen, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Lots of things can happen in football, can't they? Let's look at some of his stats from this season. You look at his passing stats. This is according to SofaScore. Part-time playmaker, that's what they're saying. The goalkeepers with the most accurate passes per game. Is that per game? I think, yes, per game in Europe, top 5 leagues. 36.1 passes per game, accurate passes per game for Jordi Petrovic. That's in front of Manuel Neuer, Mark Flecken, Mike Magnan, and Maurice Nicholas as well. So he is up there with the very best. He is the best in that regard for that stat. But let's not just look at one stat. Let's look at multiple stats and really get an idea of what he's done this season compared to what Chelsea have already got in goal. We've had Robert Sanchez playing the majority of our games in the Premier League. Who should be the loanee? And this is the question that we already knew the answer to, but for some reason Chelsea thought they knew better. Jordi Petrovic's average ratings, according to SofaScore, has been 0.44 better, 0.43 better than Robert Sanchez. In total, they played exactly the same amount of matches. They've conceded the same amount of goals. If you look at saves per game, Petrovic outdoes Sanchez in that regard. He's got 10 clean sheets to Sanchez's 7. 8 goals prevented to Sanchez's 1.79. 0 errors led to goal and 0 penalties committed compared to 5 and 2 for Robert Sanchez. So Sanchez has basically been directly responsible for 7 goals that Chelsea have conceded this season. And Petrovic has been responsible for none. You look at certain games that we've played this season and just think to yourself, what if we would have got, what if we hadn't have conceded that silly goal against United? What if Sanchez hadn't have made that mistake when we were away at Man City? What if he was able to save Martinelli's near post shot at Stamford Bridge against Arsenal? And just think to yourself, maybe that would have been the difference between us comfortably being in the top 4 and us being in the position we are right now, where we are uncertain about where we're going to finish. But I think most Chelsea fans will agree the confidence is very low of us getting Champions League football in that respect. So it's a no-brainer on my side. You've got to have Petrovic. He's the number one. He's a fantastic player. And when you hear about what the Strasbourg manager, Liam Rosnier, has had to say about Jordi Petrovic, this is what he had to say. He said, the more I see him here, the more he smiles and the happier he is. It's to his credit. He has a beautiful young family who has settled in the area, and he's going to have a remarkable career. I love working with him, and hopefully somehow we can still collaborate in the future, whether it's here or elsewhere in 5 years. I'd like it to be next season. Interesting as well, the way that Rosnier mentions he'd love to work with him at some point in the future. It's almost like he thinks he might have a chance at being the Chelsea boss. But again, that's another conversation. We know that Liam Rosnier wants Petrovic to stay at Strasbourg. Fair enough, isn't it? I'd probably want that to be the case as well. But yeah, for me, Petrovic has got to come back to Chelsea. Absolute no-brainer. Now, there is another player that's been linked, a new player that we haven't heard recently. Reports in Italy claim that Chelsea are exploring the possibility of a deal for Napoli midfielder and former Fulham player Andre Frank Zambo Anguissa at the end of this season. Anguissa's contract is due to expire at the end of the 24-25 campaign, but there is an option on both sides to extend the agreement for a further 2 years until the summer of 2027, which Napoli are expected to exercise in order to avoid losing the Cameroon international for free. However, despite the fact that Napoli are expected to extend his contract, the 29-year-old is growing increasingly likely to leave the Stadio Maradona at the end of the season. I don't know why this is. I'm not sure. If this is just maybe the player looking for another step. He's doing very well at Napoli. It's not like he hasn't played. He's playing plenty of games. There's also interest as well from League One, from Monaco for this player. So Chelsea aren't the only club that are looking into it. But listen, we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, Napoli at the moment is still fighting for Serie A. And, we'll have to see what happens there. This is a central midfield player. For those of you who don't know him, he plays as more of a defensive central midfielder, but in the middle of the park. Not particularly creative. He does get a couple of assists in there. If we look at his stats in Serie A this season, he's been all right. He's not been bad at all. Let's just have a look at this. 30 appearances, 6 goals, 4 assists, 5 yellow cards. A player that can keep his discipline. Starts the majority of games for Napoli. 82% of matches he's in the starting 11. He plays 82% of the minutes available, which means that majority of the time he is playing 90 minutes. This is a player that's not injury prone, and you can be quite certain that you will get at least 40 games out of him. Listen, if you want him to play 40 games, he can play 40 games. That kind of player. So we're not looking at someone who's going to come in and be like Lavia, get injured after 5-10 games. Nothing like that. A reliable, experienced player who, quite frankly, has proven himself at multiple teams and has only progressed as he's got older. So I'm not fully against this deal. I don't think, if I'm honest, it's necessarily the right deal for Chelsea to prioritize. I think there's other aspects of the team that should be more important. Centre-back being one. We've spoken about Dean Huijsen from Bournemouth. Mark Guehi as well as another option from Crystal Palace. Chelsea are still monitoring him, but it's not looking too hot at the moment. I think there's a very good deal for us to try and get a hold of Guehi as well, especially because we have a sell-on clause for the player. So if we can use that sell-on clause to essentially get a cheaper deal, bringing him into Chelsea anyway, it's just a no-brainer. Although I'm not sure of the exact logistics to do with that transfer. So for me, we've got to prioritize the centre-back position. We also need to prioritize a striker. And when it comes to Liam Delap as well, a player that's been heavily spoken about at Chelsea, Newcastle are another team that are keen on a summer move for Ipswich Town striker Liam Delap, and they'll be keeping a close eye on him when the two sides meet this weekend. That's according to Luke Edwards. That's from the Telegraph. They're the ones that have reported that. So that doesn't mean it's just Chelsea and United. You've also got a third team in the race for Liam Delap. My opinion on this is very simple. I know a lot of people aren't keen on bringing Delap to Chelsea. And by the way, I totally respect that. And, we've been used to having big names, signing big strikers, huge fees, huge contracts, experience. They've already achieved something in the game before they've come to Chelsea. That you could argue they're established winners already. That is obviously not the case with Liam Delap. But I think that there's a reason that Newcastle and Man United are interested in this player. I think, first of all, the striker market is very difficult to actually find a good player in those positions. And you've got Victor Gyökeres and Victor Osimhen. Gyökeres is just totally out of the picture based on what we're hearing, because we're not hearing anything to do with him being linked with Chelsea. It seems like Liverpool and Arsenal are the front runners because they have Champions League football. So that leaves you with a number of options. Obviously, Sesko, Jonathan David, Liam Delap is another one of those players. Victor Osimhen's probably going to go to Saudi Arabia based on reports as well. It's not just Chelsea that feel like they're being priced out in terms of the wages. Seems like everyone in the Premier League is just not particularly keen on paying Victor Osimhen that amount of money. And listen, if it's not just us, then I'm not going to say it makes me feel better. I mean, I'm glad that no other team will be signing him in the league, but you do think to yourself, why can't you just cough up the money once for a player who we know has still got many years left in him at the top level, who's capable of playing in the Premier League to perform, but just doesn't seem to be the direction that we're moving. So Chelsea are going to be competing alongside Newcastle, Man United for Liam Delap's signature. And it will be interesting to see who gets the nod, because every club has something different to offer. You've got United, which most likely they'll offer the most money. Definitely a starter at United, better than what they have at the moment. I mean, they've been absolutely rubbish up front with their strikers. Newcastle, obviously, just coming off the back of winning a trophy with Eddie Howe, potentially going to get Champions League football. That footballing project looks really, really good. And Chelsea offer game time, but we're not paying big money, and you don't really know where the footballing project's going at the moment. If we get in the Europa League, I guess technically you could say that we've moved a step forward. It's obviously better than the Conference League, but is that enough to persuade a player like Liam Delap to come to Chelsea? That is the question that I have. I think when you've got a player that so many teams are competing for, ultimately someone's going to have to pay more, and it is a bit like a bidding war because the fee is set. You're paying 30 million because Ipswich are going down, and then it's all about the wages. And he's currently on 45 grand a week. Is anyone going to bump that up to 120, 150, maybe even the 200 mark? I don't know. This deal could get very, very competitive. So let me know what you think about that. Personally, I'm not sure I would push above 150 grand a week for Liam Delap, but if you're desperate, if you don't have anyone else on the market, then obviously you've got to spend the money at some point. Is it worth spending more on a player like Liam Delap when you're competing against Newcastle and United, knowing that, yes, he's a good player? Or should you just cough up an extra, whatever it is, 100 grand a week on Osimhen and just suck it up? Because you've got a better player there. So let me know if you agree or disagree with anything that is happening around the club. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, guys. And we'll be back tomorrow with some more Chelsea